Hello, everybody, and welcome into another Sharks News and Rumors here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined by Alex Hutton. Alex, how's it going?
It's going well. Doing well. Glad to be. It's been a couple weeks, obviously, but there's been a lot of good stuff since then. So a lot of stuff to talk about.
For sure, yeah. The Sharks are still they're on a 3-game winning streak right now, and they've been on. Bit on fire. They are 1-3 in a row, 10-5-3 at home. One of the best home records in the league right now, which is kind of fueling where they are in the standings because their road record is 7-9. So they got to do a bit better in that. But they're still in a playoff position as we're recording with 37 points. They're in the second wild card position, tied with the LA Kings with 37. And I don't know if anyone really expected at this point of the season with 34 games played now that the Sharks would be in a playoff spot. There's a lot of things that go into it. Of course, we'll talk about Macklin Celebrini, as we've talked about probably every video so far this season. So, but I want to talk about the crazy comeback against the Penguins, which, the Penguins have been not a bad team this season either. Were you expecting something like that? Because what were they down 3 goals in the third period and came back 4 goals? It was even worse and came back and won. So
it was kind of unbelievable, and like the way I've been thinking about it, obviously, these last few days, I think everybody in sort of Sharks world has been reflecting on it and like sort of their takeaways from a game that insane. I think what I keep thinking back to is like how many times I used the phrase "at least" during that comeback. And what I mean by that is it was 5-1, then they made it 5-2. It's like, all right, well, at least they didn't roll over. At least they stayed enough to get a second goal. Then they made it 5-3. Okay, well, at least they got to a place where they can like pull the goalie and get into an empty net situation and like actually have something of a comeback here. Then they made it 5-4. Okay, well, at least they got it to a 1-goal game. Then they tied it. At least they sent it into overtime and got a point out of all this. And then they actually won. So it was just sort of wild the way, because I think the last couple of years, this is the team that probably would have ended up losing that game 6 or 7-1, or maybe 6 or 7-2 at best. And instead, they just have the different belief, and between that and having more skill, there's definitely a different feeling where they're not getting quite as knocked off as they maybe were once upon a time. And every once in a while, you'll get a game where they lose pretty badly. You had the one against Carolina, one against Washington, and I believe one against Colorado. But even those are not quite as bad as they might have been a couple seasons ago. So it just shows, again, the strides they're taking at this point in the rebuild and the development as they build back up.
For sure. I think it's that they're not giving up. Not saying that they were giving up in the past, but it seems like they do have a bit more of a pushback this season. And when they're down a lot, it's not necessarily they're going to lose, and that game really showed it. The Penguins have had their struggles lately with that exact thing. They blew another lead, I believe, the next game, a multiple goal lead against the Mammoth. So they've been having their issues with that, and the Sharks, full value to them to do it. But yeah, for a team that's fragile like that, you got to take advantage of doing it, and that's what the Sharks did. So it is a very impressive what they did in that game, and they've won a few games since then as well. So it's impressive what they've been able to do this season, not just in this last stretch, but stay well above 500. Which like we've mentioned, last season they weren't at this position. Previous season to that, they weren't in this position. I believe they were well below 500 right now. Definitely not in the playoffs for sure. All right, well, a big architect of that comeback was, of course, Macklin Celebrini. He's been architect of a lot of the success. He's now third in the NHL in points. He's stayed around there probably all season. He's at 51 points now, behind Nathan MacKinnon, Connor McDavid, who both those guys have been on fire this season as well. And Celebrini's on pace for 123 points this season, 43 goals, 80 assists. I don't know if he's really surprised by what he's doing anymore. He's just carrying the Sharks right now.
Absolutely, yeah. I think he's been involved in like I think over half of their goals this season, either by scoring or getting an assist. So I mean that just shows you. I mean that's a ridiculous workload for anyone to be taking on, much less a 19-year-old in his second season. He is his vision, his playmaking, his anticipation, his passing ability, and his shooting ability. Just combine it all, and it just shows what an offensive force he is. He's going to be their captain sooner rather than
Oh
later,
yeah.
and you're talking about all this stuff with the Olympics and will he make it onto Team Canada? I mean, at this point, it feels like they don't really have a choice. Like,
Yeah.
who else would they take? Obviously, McKinnon and McDavid, sure, they're probably a little bit above him, but after that, if you're looking for that third center, who else would you rather have at this point?
Mm.
Because he's just been that good, and at least on the offensive side, I think pretty much at times almost single-handedly carrying the Sharks to what they've been able to do this season. And I think that's something that any Olympic team would love to have, regardless if it's like a really high-powered one like Canada.
100%. I mean, we talked about Connor Bedard being in that conversation. He's unfortunately got injured not that long ago, and it doesn't seem, I don't know if it's going to be really long-term, or his point totals are ridiculous as well this season. And do you think Celebrini could, if he keeps going on this, what it looks like he is, in the conversation for the Hart Trophy? I mean, my opinion is MVP is like, you take him off the Sharks, I don't think the Sharks are very good. And that's my definition of an MVP. Do you think that's something that would come in to play? Because, of course, McDavid and McKinnon are going to be there too. But do you think he's the third guy there?
I think I would think so. Yeah. I mean, when you look at the definition of MVP, the player most valuable to his team, it's hard to argue for anyone, I think, outside of probably those three players. So I mean, when you look at what he's done, I mean, just the numbers you throw out, where like the Sharks, you look at their sort of the advanced stats with the Corsi and the Fenwick and what percentage of the scoring chances are they getting. It's relatively low, but their goal totals are not. The advanced numbers suggest their goal total should be dead last, and their goal numbers are not dead last because of what he's doing. And like I said a minute ago, he's involved in over half their goals, and like that on its own is making the Sharks competitive. So it's pretty remarkable.
Mm-hmm. And he's of course, on pace for a full season, his first full season in the NHL, because of course injuries last season kind of derailed at the beginning of the season there. I mean, played close to 70 games is still pretty good, but he's on pace for a full season. And he's really close already to getting to that 63 points. And he'll hit that 63 points probably in the next 2 weeks, the way he's going. But yeah, it's really crazy what he's doing for the Sharks right now. All right, well, some going from a guy that's on fire to another defenseman that's on fire, and not a rookie, not a young guy. This is a veteran. And John Klingberg, I mean, he's a guy that's, he's had some problems with injury. He looked like he might be at the end of his career last season. And I mean, comes to the Sharks, and now he's on pace for 43 points, his best season since this 21-22 when he had 47. And he's probably done most of these points in the last 2 weeks what he's been doing. What have you liked about his game so far this season, especially probably in the last month?
Yeah, I mean, what I think you've seen from him, at least recently, is first of all he's definitely getting more adjusted to a new setting, and he's the first couple months were pretty rough, and I think everyone could see that, where he was having some trouble handling the puck along the blue line. Maybe his shot selection wasn't the best, but even as a veteran, showing a willingness to okay, what am I doing here? What do I need to work on? That's a great sign. Sets an example for everybody else. Recently, I've seen, I think his puck movement has been better. He's being more selective with his shots. Like, I think a lot of times early on, he was kind of wildly firing into traffic and just hoping for some sort of screen or deflection or something. Mm-hmm. I think he's been a lot more thoughtful with, when do I shoot the puck? When do I just move it to the next guy, keep the offense going? And he's getting rewarded for that with those numbers. 5-game point streak, I believe. I think 5 goals in his last 5 games. So that I think that's where it starts for him, is making just smarter decisions with the puck when he has it up top.
Mm-hmm. And he's playing a lot too. I mean, he's over 20 minutes of the last 4 games. And I mean, yeah, most of his points have been in the last 5 games. When you're looking at the goal totals, like you say, 5 of his 8 have been in the last 5. So I mean, it might be just a little bit of a hot streak. The on pace numbers go crazy when you do this kind of thing. So I mean, I'm not saying he's going to hit 23 goals this season. I don't think so. He'd have to stay on this, and I don't think that's happening. But it's great for him. I don't know. I mean, when you're looking at the Sharks right now in the playoff picture, if they were out of it, you'd think Klingberg would be a guy that they'd trade. Do you think that's still on the table, or because they are still in the playoff picture, that's something they wouldn't do?
It's interesting because I think at some point, maybe closer to the trade line, they have to move a defenseman.
Yeah,
like there's too much of a logjam there with trying to find time for Mukman and Dickinson and all these other guys, and just the constant sort of shuffling in and out and rotating guys in and out. I don't think that's sustainable for very long. So they have to move somebody, and if Klingberg proves to be the one they can get the most value for, I think that might ultimately be okay, just because they have so many other defensemen who they need to try to fit in. So someone's going to have to go, and they just have to figure out who that is.
I mean, it might be a good thing, especially if he stays on this, binge of points, that a team might pay a bit more than what they would if he wasn't on fire with his confidence and generating offense. So that's something I think they will look at. And like you say, they're young defensemen that are going to be that they have, and even some veterans that could replace that. We'll see. That's going to be something to monitor for sure, even if they are still in that playoff mode, I guess, around the trade deadline. All right, let's finish off the show with the World Juniors, because we might not get together again. We might. I mean, when the World Juniors are going on. But Michael Misa, for sure, he's going to be there. But Sam Dickinson could also. I mean, we were talking about that they won't send a guy like that because, it might jeopardize. I don't know. With how he hasn't really impacted the team a lot. But do you think that Dickinson is a guy that'll go? And then, of course, Michael Misa he's coming off an injury too, right? So, yeah, I mean, these two guys could be for the World Juniors as well.
Yeah, for Misa, I think it's absolutely the right move, just especially with the injury, just to sort of get him back up to speed, playing with and against guys his age. I think is a good way to sort of get back into that, not having to jump back into NHL competition right away. Same thing with the conditioning loan he was on with the Barracuda, helping him out a little bit there. As for Dickinson, well, they've had discussions about it, and I'm like, while I understand why they're doing that, I think the best thing for him at this point is to stay in the NHL and work through that competition, just because a big part of the reason he was promoted to a full NHL season this year was because just he kind of had learned everything he needed to learn at the junior level, and just dominating and running over everybody at that level just wasn't doing anything for his development anymore. So I think I would rather see him take that stretch of time to play some NHL games, work like we've been talking about in previous videos, work through his mistakes, just get that experience playing against the big boys and the top level competition, rather than just going in and dominating everybody at the junior level, where maybe you can recover from mistakes just by your size, your athleticism, or whatever it might be. Whereas in the NHL, you can't quite do that as much, and I think making those mistakes at this point is the better move for him.
Yeah, I agree as well. I mean, the thing is, for defensemen, I think it is better to be able to work through that in the NHL. And there's no challenge anymore at the junior level, like you said. And I think that's just, there's some defensemen or forwards as well that do need more time at the juniors. But I think for Dickinson, I think he's already shown he can be an NHL defenseman. And it's just, now he just has to kind of refine his game, and that it's better off doing it there rather than, and he would be, of course, Team Canada would love to have him, because he would really help. I mean, they're going to have a talented defense core already, but adding him would just be pretty crazy. Just Misa going, I mean, that's a big addition to Canada as well. Hopefully that the injury isn't going to kind of hinder him a bit, but with his, I mean, of course, he's probably healthy enough. They wouldn't send him if he wasn't, but being out for a while, he did get, how long did he get with the Barracuda? Just a few games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's still that, you get that. You're probably back into the swing of things. And like you say, the World Juniors is probably good for him to get back into that and then come back to the NHL, and maybe he'll take some confidence from there and just transfer it for the rest of the season, which will be good for him as well. All right. Well, thanks, Alex, for coming on, talking Sharks as always. As the season continues for them, which has been a very successful one. I mean, Sharks fans are probably excited to watch games right now when maybe they weren't the last couple of seasons, a lot of losing, but they've been doing a lot of winning lately and kind of putting some teams on notice that, you know what, this team is kind of for real right now. And you got to worry about them when you play against them, especially going against Celebrini now, who's one of the elite forwards in the NHL. So we'll see if they can keep it going. And by the time we get together again to see if they're still in that playoff picture. But be sure checking everything out at thehockeywriters.com. We got great articles throughout the site, as well as the Substack newsletter if you haven't subscribed to that, to keep up to date with everything we've got going on. But until our next video, we will see you next time.